Okay, so yeah, thank you for being on time. Welcome to today's English class. Today we are going to continue with our program. Last class we reviewed basic prepositions in on at. So today at the beginning of the class we're going to continue with that, but just to see how we are doing with the use of them. I'm not going to be talking about that all over again. It's just like a quiz that I want to take so I can see how you're doing with the prepositions. And then we're going to start working with the book. Remember, the book is Startup 3. So we're going to continue with that, or to start really with that. I'm hoping that we can study the first lesson and the second lesson in Unit 1. So yeah, let's see how it goes. But first, let's do the brief practice about prepositions. So that everybody remembers. I'm not sure if all of you remember, so I'm going to just share the document that I created for all of you in your folders on Drive. So this is just a general review. I'm not going to, as I told you, I'm not going to talk about this all over again, but let's make a review. So we use in, on, at for time and for location. When you talk about time and you want to use the preposition in, is because you are talking about long periods of time, like centuries, decades, years, months, weeks, etc. All right, so in those situations, you can use in, long periods of time. The same is going to happen with location. When you want to use in for location, you have to refer to big locations like countries, cities, neighborhoods, big locations. Okay, so that's why we have here general and big, okay, for big periods of time and for big locations. Then if you want to use on, you have to be more specific, and on is only useful when you're talking about days of the week, like on Monday, on Tuesday, dates, as in on March the 20th, and when you want to talk about the weekend, on the weekend. And regarding location, you are going to use on when talking about streets and avenues. So on Padilla Street, on America Avenue. That's it. Finally, we have at, which is useful when you want to talk about the time. For example, when you want to mention a specific time, at 7, at 9, a quarter to 9, etc. And regarding location, at is only useful when you want to talk about addresses, when you want to give the exact address. For example, I live at 123 America Avenue, or when you want to talk about a specific place. For example, I met him at the supermarket. Okay, so those are the situations, specific situations in which you can use at. So yeah, last class we talked about this for a long time, but now it's just a review. So you can have the chance, to bring up all the information or bring it back. And now we're going to put it into use. I'm going to be asking you questions like a quiz, but we're going to use the poll on Zoom. So I'm going to be sharing questions and then sharing the correct answer. Let me start right away with question number 1. Remember, it's all about prepositions. So let's go. That's my question right there. What you need to do is to choose the correct preposition for the sentence. He was born something 1960. So let's see if you remember. Let me give you a few more seconds to vote. Okay, we still have some seconds before we review. Okay, let's end it and let me share the results. So we have he was born something 1960. And we have only 3 people that voted on. On is not possible here because when we talk about long periods of time, like years, you need to use in. Okay, so keep that in mind whenever you're talking about a year, it's in. Also a month, also a decade, and weeks. Okay, remember that. Let's go with the second question. Let me find it. And that's launched. So the same idea, but now you have they live something Sweden. So which preposition do you need here? And this is going really quickly. Let me give you a few more seconds to vote. Okay, let's end it and share the result. So we have they live something Sweden. What do we have? Sweden, a country. So I told you that when you're talking about big places like countries, cities, and neighborhoods, you need in. It is impossible to use on when you're talking about cities, countries, and neighborhoods. At is the wrongest one, if you wish. All right, let me launch another one. And let's see. Here we have Martha is something the car. So which preposition is the correct one here? And this question is related to a question that I got asked in last meeting. I don't remember who asked me that question. But yeah, I answered the question and I gave some examples. Okay. Let's see, this one is, yeah, we don't have a clear winner here. We are half and half. So what's the deal? Let me just share it again. Let me explain it again. When we have means of transportation, if you wish, we always use on when it is about means of transportation, okay? But there is an exception. What's the exception? The car, okay? So yeah, I'm not quite sure, as I told you last class, I'm not quite sure why we have that that exception. It doesn't really make sense, but we always say in the car. But on the other hand, we always say, oh, let me just change the color so you see the difference. On a boat, on the plane, on the bike, on a motorcycle, etc. All right, so yeah, when you have means of transportation, on is the one that you're going to use, except when you are talking about cars, where you can definitely only use in the car, right? So yeah, keep it in mind because that's the exception. That's why it's in another color and it's right there where you can see it. So in this case, the correct answer was in. So Martha is in the car, not on the car. Yeah, now let's go. Let me stop sharing and let's go with the next question just to check on you. We have his birthday is something August. Think clearly, try to remember the differences between in on at, because that's going to help you answer this a little quicker. Okay, so let me share the results. Yeah, I'm not so happy about this one. His birthday is something August. The correct answer is in August. Why? Because we're talking about a month. When you talk about years, months, centuries, decades, weeks, it's only in. Or as I said previously, when you talk about long periods of time, it's in. Okay, so don't go for on when you have a month. In August, in April, in January, in March, etc. Right, now let's go to the next one. And yeah, pay attention to this one because it's also tricky. His birthday is something August 17th. Okay, we have people voting for everything. That's weird. Let me give you a few more seconds. Yeah, let's end it and let me share the results. We have a clear winner. It's on, and yeah, it's definitely on. What happens when you are talking about a date or a day of the week? It's always on. So when you're going to talk about a specific day of the month, it's not in August, like anywhere in August. It's on August 17th. It's a specific date, okay? Remember, whenever you're giving a date, it's on. That's a rule there. Now, let me ask you another one. Let's go with this one. I live something America Avenue. So what's the correct one here? This one is very easy. It's the same example I gave you last class. Okay, let's share the results. We have I live something America Avenue. It's only on when you're mentioning the street or the avenue. It's always on America Avenue, on Padilla Street. So I'm just mentioning the name of the street or the avenue, and that's it. Okay. So you need to remember in those cases it's always on, not in, not at. Now let's play with something similar. It's a very similar exercise, but now we have a specific number there. You're voting very quickly. I'm happy. Let me give you a few more seconds. Again, let's end it and let me share. And we have, I live at 123 America Avenue. What I told you last class is that when I mention only the name of the street, it's on. I live on America Avenue. But if I'm going to mention the specific place on that avenue where I live, with the number and everything, it's at. I live at 123 America Avenue, right? So there is a difference there between just mentioning the name of the street and mentioning the specific place on the street with the number and everything. All right, let's go with number 8. We have Miriam is something home. So what's the correct one here? This is also something that we talked about last class.
It's a trick.
It's a trick. Yes. Okay, let's end it. Yeah, definitely at home. So Miriam, it's at home. Let me share again my my whiteboard and talk to you about this. I said that when you mention the word home, we usually use the preposition at home. All right, that's it. At home, the same preposition is the one that we use for school. I'm at school. I'm at uni, at university. It's always at, okay? The differences come when you are inside the building, okay? So now I'm at home, but I am in my office, okay? So in a specific room inside my house, it's in. So it would be in the office, in the kitchen, in the, I don't know, dining room, if you happen to have one, etc. So you are inside the building in a specific room. The same will happen, for example, at school or at university, but in the classroom, in the lobby, in the bathroom, etc. All right, so that's something that I explained last class. And yeah, it happens to be quite important. Okay, so use at when you are in a building and you don't want to mention specifically in which room of the building. Okay, so if I don't want to be specific, I would say I'm at home, anywhere at home. But if I want to be specific about the place, I will say that I am in the kitchen, I'm in the balcony, etc. So this thing that I just explained kind of reverts the meaning of at as being the most specific one. But yeah, that's how prepositions work. They are tricky. Yeah, there's always an exception to the rule. Juan, do you have something to say?
Yes, yes, teacher. I have a doubt
Yes.
about in the case you said that this usually we use on, right?
Yes.
And for this example, let's see you at Maria's birthday or on Maria's birthday. On is
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah. It depends on what you mean. Okay, so let's write it. I'll see you on Maria's birthday. In English, it wouldn't make much sense. Like the birthday, yeah. We usually would say, "I'll see you at Maria's party," instead of using the word birthday, because birthday refers specifically to the day this person was born. So in English, people don't speak like that. We wouldn't refer to a party as a birthday. If it's a party, we just say party. Usually, if you say birthday, it kind of give you the idea that you are talking about the day this person is going to be born. For example, if we know that my sister is pregnant, she's having the baby next week, so I'll see you on her birthday because she's going to be born. If it's a birthday party, then we use the word party and we wouldn't use the word birthday because it wouldn't make sense. It's confusing. Okay, so yeah, I recommend not using that specific sentence. Refer to that as a party. And in that case, if you're going to a party, it's always at. I'll see you at the party. Yeah, I hope I have helped. Do we have any other question now that we are on the topic?
Yes, I have a question. How do you say if you wanna emphasize the party of my born, for example? Because Maria's party can be everything.
Oh, okay, yes. Like Yes, in that case, if you want to be specific about the kind of party, at Maria's birthday party.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
You just need to add the word birthday in front of it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
The same will happen with any kind of party, like a wedding, anniversary party.
Okay.
Yes. Also, the most common one that we have when we have friends abroad, farewell party, etc. So yeah, happens like that. All right, more questions or comments here? I still have 2 more questions for you guys, so get ready. Yeah, thanks. Let's go then to I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to share. Let's go to the next question number 9. And here you have to choose very wisely. You have 2 options. The meeting is something, and Monday morning, something 7 p.m. I think that this one is one of the easiest ones, so I hope everybody gets it correct. And we're on the right path. Let me give you a few more seconds. Right, fair enough. Let me share. Yes. So the meeting is on Monday morning at 7 p.m. So you are going to use on when you are talking about days of the week, on Monday, on Tuesday, etc. And at for the time. That's it. And let's go with the last one. I'm not sure if this one is tricky enough. Let's see. The meeting is something, Christmas Day. And then we have the golf club. Let me give you a few more seconds. All right, let's end it. So we have the meeting is on Christmas Day, because I told you that when we are talking about a specific day, even if it's a festivity, we need to use on. And then we have the place, the golf club, and we when we talk about specific places, we use at the golf club. Right, so let me read it again, just in case. The meeting is on Christmas Day at the golf club. That's how it goes. So in is not needed in any of these blank spaces. Right, so that's it. This is just a review that I wanted to make with all of you guys, because as I told you last class, prepositions are very important, but they are also very tricky. So it's something that we need to keep on practicing. Let me just share this document with you. Yeah. So here it's the document that I shared in all of your folders. And these are my answers, okay? So I told you that if you complete your document, you can come to mine and then check your answers, compare your answers with mine, and you can write to me every time that you're not sure about something, or every time that you don't agree with my decision, for example. We can talk about that, okay? So yeah, check your answers with my document. Where are you going to find the document? I told you that this is the folder that I shared with all of you guys, and there is a folder with my name. and that's where you are going to find the document with the correct answers, okay? Yeah, that's it. So whenever you have any doubt, go to that document. Now let's continue. It's time to move on, and now I want to start right away with the book. Here it is. So I'm not sure yet how many of you have already bought the book. I want to give you this whole week for you to be able to buy it. I know that in some places it's difficult to get, so yeah, it takes time. Let's go straight to Unit 1. I told you last week that all of the units have a title, and then we have the learning goals. And we'll read the learning goals again because I think that learning goals kind of guides us through the path that we want to cross when we're here. So we are going to start by talking about what you are doing. Then you're going to talk about your family, like the story of your family. And then you are going to make and respond to invitations. These three topics are quite interesting, and they tend to be my favorite ones because also it gives me the chance to get to know you a little better. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy these lessons too. And of course, all of these goals are related to some grammar points. Okay, so that's where we are going to start right now. All right, so as I told you, we always have a vocabulary section, then we have the grammar chart, then we have always a pronunciation section that sometimes when it's too important, I talk about it, and sometimes I skip it, it depends. Then we have the conversation and the try it yourself, which is where you go and talk to your partners. Let's start by the vocabulary. The vocabulary section, which it's related to different activities that we can do in our free time or when we're working, etc. I'm going to have you listen first to the pronunciation. Maybe that's useful for you. Let me share my sound. And so let's listen to the pronunciation, and then we'll go through the meaning of these words. Let's pay attention.
Listen. Take an online class. Take guitar lessons. Study Japanese. Study graphic design. Look for an apartment. Look for a job. Spend time with family. Spend time with friends. Work at a restaurant. Work at a hospital. Play tennis. Play chess.
Play chess. Okay, that's it. So important things that I want to mention about the vocabulary. Probably you are already familiar with the vocabulary. I am guessing that you know all of these words, but there are a few things that I want to mention so I can make sure that that we are on the same page. All right, so take is the verb that we use in English to talk about classes or lessons, okay? I usually get Bolivian students telling me I'm passing classes, for example. I'm passing classes. That doesn't make sense, okay? You are taking classes, or you have to take classes, but you are not passing classes as you would say in your Spanish, okay? So careful with that. Don't say I'm passing classes.
Valeria,
Yeah.
can we say we are having classes?
Yes, definitely. That's also correct. Yes. So we can also say I'm having classes. or I have classes. Yeah, it makes sense. We understand the idea. But passing classes? No, don't say that. What is the problem with the verb pass? The verb pass in English referred to a class means that you have good grades on it. So you have already passed the class. So in Spanish, we say aprobar. Okay, so you can say, I passed English, which means aprobé inglés. Okay, it's perfectly correct, but it means something totally different from the Spanish pasar clases. Okay, it's not the same. Pass in English means aprobar. So careful with that. An important thing to remember. I am take, is it correct? Nope, it's not correct. I take English classes as a general thing, like I take English classes every year, for example, or I'm taking English classes now. Okay, so there's a difference between those two. I take alone or I am taking. So whenever you use the verb to be in your sentences, you need to use it with the ing form. Otherwise, it's not correct. Okay, so yeah, careful with those two also. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to mention about take classes, as in the opposite of pass a class. What else? Let me just show you. Study, I think it's fine. We all know how to use this verb. It's not a problem. The problem that I usually get with my students is when they want to say look for. So look for in Spanish means buscar, and it's mandatory to use for after look. Otherwise, it doesn't mean buscar. Those two together mean buscar. So I am looking for an opportunity at the Catholic University. I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for whatever. Okay, so you have to use them together. Look for. Don't leave anything out of the sentence because then it means something different. Then we have spend time with people. And I usually get the same problem that I get with take. Sometimes I have students who say, I pass time with my family. That doesn't make any sense, okay? Pastime, well, we understand it may be used in some countries, but it's not really something that we say normally. We normally say spend time, okay? So, and if you're going to mention a person, spend time with, rather than past time, which sounds a little weird, right? So let's go for spend time. What else do we have? That's not what I'm looking for. So work at, this is very important because when I get my students introduce themselves, they always say, hi, my name is Juanito, and I work in the Catholic University, and that's not the preposition that we use to talk about a place where you work. So you have to say, I work at the Catholic University, I work at a hospital, at etc. Except if you work from home. For example, I work at the Catholic University, but I also work from home. Okay, so that's different. I work from here to wherever you are. That's the difference. But if I have to go to a place, then I work at that place. Right? So careful with that preposition. It doesn't matter if you are going to mention the company, like I work at the Catholic University, or if you are just going to mention a place, like I work at a restaurant, at a hospital, at a university. All right, so you can use the place or the name of the company, but it's always at. So careful with that. And yeah, finally we have play. which I think it's correct. We know how to use the verb play. We can use play to talk about sports like this one, or to talk about an instrument. For example, I play the guitar, and any other instrument. Okay, so yeah, that's it. And the first vocabulary section, I think it's not that difficult, but it gives you a few things that you need to keep in mind in order to use the language correctly, right? So that's it with the vocabulary. Now remember, if you have questions, you can always open your mics or talk to me on the chat. That's perfectly correct. So we have this chart, which is very informative. It has a lot of things that we need to pay attention to. First, let me divide it into colors so you can see the differences between them. So first you have affirmative sentences. Then you have negative sentences on this part. Then you have questions that you can ask. So closed questions. And finally, you have open-ended questions. Let me change it. That's the same color. Let's use this one. Okay, so then we have information questions, as they call them, or we also call them close-ended questions, and these ones are open-ended questions. Okay, so that's why we have a lot of information here, but they are separated into different categories. So here we are going to be talking about the present continuous for temporary situations. You may already be familiar with the present continuous. The present continuous talks about actions that are happening at the moment of speaking. For example, I could use the present continuous to say that now I am speaking, you are listening, people are running on the street, some people are working, etc. Okay, so actions that are happening now in the moment that we are speaking. These actions started in the past, but now in the present continue. They are in progress. That's why the present continuous sometimes is called present progressive, because it talks about actions that are in progress, actions that haven't finished, like this class. This class started half an hour ago, but now in the present is happening. It's in progress. Okay, so we are having classes right now. It's happening. Okay, so that's the present continuous for actions that are in progress in the present. What do we need to talk about the present continuous? We always need the verb to be, that's mandatory, am, is, or are, and then it is also mandatory to use an ing form. Okay, so I am speaking, you are listening, I am taking classes, I am visiting my family, etc. So it's always verb to be plus ing. I am taking a class, he is taking a class, and they are taking a class. Then, on the other hand, we have the negative statements. So in the negative statements, of course, we are going to use the negative participle, not. So instead of saying, instead of saying I am taking classes, and I can say I'm not taking classes. I'm not taking classes. That works perfectly correct. So in the example, we have I'm not looking for a job anymore. She's not looking for a job anymore, and they are not looking for a job anymore. Can anybody tell me what anymore means in this sentence? You can open your mics or tell me in the chat. So what does anymore mean?
No more.
No more? Yeah. It makes sense. No more.
I already finished. I already done.
You've done
I
it.
don't know. I got a job.
You've got a job, so you're not looking for that anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Rodri. And we also have it in the chat. Ya no más. Perfect. So anymore in this case would mean ya no estoy buscando un trabajo, right? So yeah, that's the meaning of that that expression. And then we have the structure. It's the same. You need the verb to be, of course, am, is, or are, and you need the negative particle. So I'm taking classes, I'm not taking classes. That's it. What about when you want to ask people questions? You have to always start by the verb to be. Are you still living in Quito? Like, still, meaning, do you continue living in Quito? And then you can say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not anymore. You can also say, not anymore. Okay, so questions always start by the verb to be, and then the rule continues to be the same. Are you still living in Quito? Are you still taking English classes? Are you still looking for a job? Etc. That's it. And finally, we have information questions, which are open-ended questions. And in open-ended questions, you are going to do exactly the same. The only difference is that with information questions, you are going to start with question words like what, where, when, why, how, etc. In this case, we have what is Mario doing these days? So what is Mario doing these days? And then we have where are they studying now? Okay, so we have the verb to be. And before that, we have the question word, which could be, I repeat, why, when, where, how, who, etc. And then you need the verb to be, and then the subject, which could be Mario, I, them, you, etc. And then you need the verb in ing, because that's mandatory. And that's it. All right, so what is the difference between yes or no questions and information questions? As you can see, in yes or no questions, you only have two options, yes and no. But in information questions, you don't have options and you have to give information. That's why they are called information questions. You have to share your information. What's Mario doing these days? He's taking a class. Where are they studying now? They're studying in the office. Okay, so that's the deal with the present continuous. It's not so complicated, and I'm very sure that all of you know this already. It may get a little complicated when we are speaking, but I wouldn't think that it's much of a challenge for all of you. Let's read the notes before we move on a little farther. So in the notes, we have a few rules. So we use these days for a situation that is temporary. For example, I'm traveling a lot these days. What does temporary mean in this situation? It means that it's not always like this. I'm not always traveling. It's not like something that I do that I have been doing all my life. No, it's a temporary situation. These days, like in the present, maybe this month, I'm traveling a lot. Okay, so when we use the expression these days, it refers to the present as an extended thing, like the past month and the next month, something like that. Okay, I've been studying English these days, meaning that I started studying English a few days ago, and in the present I'm still studying English. So these days I'm studying English. These days I'm living in Quito. These days I am taking classes, etc. That's how we use the expression these days. Then we have still. So we use still for a situation that continues to be true. It started in the past, and now in the present, it's still going on. So Mario still lives in Quito, meaning that he started living in Quito in the past. Now in the present, it is in progress. That situation is not over. That person is still living in Quito at the moment. And then we have the expression not anymore. for a situation that is no longer true. Ya no más, as we read it on the chat. It's not true anymore. So he's not living in Atlanta anymore. So maybe he's living somewhere else. Now he's living in Quito, but not in Atlanta anymore, right? So those are common expressions that you can use to practice or to use, sorry, the present continuous when talking about temporary actions. Actions that are true now, but if they are not always true, it's just at this moment of my life, they are true, right? And having said that, I want you guys to practice a little bit because, yeah, the main point of this class is to get together, read some vocabulary that's going to be useful for us, and then we need to practice our English. We know the grammar, we know the vocabulary, and now we need to talk. So what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about this, what the book offers. So I want you to try yourself, and what are you going to do? You are going to talk to a partner and share what's going on with you these days. Of course, if you don't know the person that you are talking to, you may want to also add more details about you, like where you're from, what you do, where you work at, etc. But the main thing that you want to talk about is what you are doing these days. Okay? The question that you have to ask your partner is, what are you doing these days? Okay? It's very brief. It's not going to take long. I'm going to give you a few minutes only for that, so you get acquainted. Let me write this word. Some people are not familiar with it. Acquainted. Acquainted is someone you know, but it's not your friend. It's someone you just know. And what I'm telling you is to get acquainted. Let me write it. I want you to get acquainted. And what I mean by that is that I want you to get acquainted. Okay, so let me repeat, it's not something long. We're just going to spend a few minutes talking to a person, getting acquainted, sharing personal details, and then telling what are you doing these days. How are you going to answer that question? By using the present continuous. I'm taking guitar lessons these days, for example. Also, what else? I'm going to the gym every morning. I don't know. And then please, oh please, whenever I ask you to talk to a partner, be generous with your answers, okay? Share as much detail as you can. Don't just say, what are you doing these days? Nothing. That's not how you are going to practice your English and get better at English. You have to share information as much as you can, even if it's difficult, even if it's you don't have the words, even if sometimes you have to use Spanglish. That's perfect. Don't use Spanish all the time. That's not necessary. That's not going to help you. But try your best to express your ideas in English, even if it's hard, even if you are embarrassed, even if whatever is going on in your head right now. Okay, so try to share what you're doing these days, like the most obvious things, like I'm teaching an English course. Also, I'm doing something else in my free time because blah, blah, blah. Okay, so try to share as much as you can. Don't just say nothing. As always, I'm going to be visiting around so I can hear you speaking. I can get to know you a little better too. Okay, so now I'm going to move you to the small rooms, the breakout rooms, and we're going to practice with a partner. Do we have questions before we go to the breakout rooms? Are we all clear what we're doing? All right. So how many people do we have? I think that we are going to need Okay. Yeah, let's go. Let me know if you've got any trouble going to the small rooms and I can move you. Otherwise, I'll see you there. I'm wrong. Here it is. Okay, so we are talking about the differences between watch and look. Okay, so watch is usually for something in movement or something that moves, okay? That's why I say watch a movie, because a movie is moving. Watch TV, watch a football game, okay? Something that moves. Watch is related to movement. And then we have look, which is not related to movement. It's more related to stare at something that is not moving, okay? That would be the difference. Yeah, so in that case, you have to say the man is looking at a window, okay? Because he's looking at it, the window is not moving, so you couldn't say the man is watching a window, because watching gives you the idea of movement, and that is not the case. Is looking at a shop window or store window. It's actually more specific if you wish. Okay, so that would be the difference, the main difference between those two verbs. And see, in this case, it's more related to watch. Okay, so that's why some people would say, I see a movie, or let's see a movie. It works like that. So it's more related to movement, images that move in that case, or things that move. That would be the
and the old woman that is in the balcony, she's watching the street, watching the person, or watching or looking the street.
in that case. Yeah, if she is just looking without paying attention, just looking anywhere, it could be look. But if she is paying attention to people, then you would use watch, like she's watching people.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
No problem. She's watching people walk. Or if she's not looking at something specific, not people, she's just looking out the window. That would be the difference. In the second one, we mean that she's looking anywhere, not specifically paying attention to something. In the first one, we mean that she's watching people, like she's paying attention to people move. That would be it. All right, so that's the difference between watch, look, and see. Does anybody have any other question about grammar or anything that you came across with? All right, let's then continue. Yeah, we were talking about the present continuous, sorry. And now I want to give you some differences between the present simple and the present continuous, just because, okay? Just because we need to remember that they are not the same, they are not used in a similar fashion, they are quite opposite. So the present simple is for routines mainly, okay? Routines, habits, and things that are generally true. Whereas the present continuous is for things that are happening now. Now they are true, yeah, in the present, these days, etc. So what would be the difference? The main difference is that when you use the present continuous, of course, you talk about something that remains true for a period of time. For example, she smiles every day. It's true every day. This happens every day. So I have to use it, I have to say it, sorry, in the present simple, because it's something that happens all the time, every day. But it is different if I say she's smiling or I'm smiling right now, which is happening at this moment, It's true now in the present, but it may not be true tomorrow, or probably it wasn't true yesterday. It's true now. Okay, that's why I choose to use the present continuous. She's smiling right now, and we can see that. Whereas in the present simple, she smiles every day. This is always true, at least for some period of time. Then what happens in the present simple with the negative sentences? I always need to use an auxiliary verb to say that something is not true, it's not happening, etc. So if I want to say that the opposite of she smiles every day, I have to use an auxiliary verb, doesn't. So she doesn't smile every day. It's not true. That never happens. Whereas if I want to use it with the present continuous, then it's not the same, because in the present continuous, I never need an auxiliary verb. It's not necessary. Okay, so if I want to say something in the negative form, I'm just going to use not. That's also a main difference between present simple and present continuous. Doesn't, and on the other hand, in the present continuous, we don't need not. I'm not smiling right now, in this moment, of course, and she doesn't smile every day. Finally, in the questions, we have the same idea. If I want to ask a question in the present simple, I have to say, does she smile every day? That's my question, and I need an auxiliary verb, does. Whereas in the present continuous, I'm not going to need does, it's not necessary, and I just need to start by the verb to be. So are you smiling right now? That's what I would say, instead of saying does she smile every day. Okay, so it is important that when you know your verb tenses, you need to keep them differentiated, specifically on the following things. What do we use them for? Like the use, and then the rules that we have for building affirmative, negative, and interrogative sentences. Okay, so that's very important. Keep them in separated drawers in your brain. The clearer all of them are, the easier it would get for when you have to speak. So when you are speaking, you don't mix them, because when you start mixing tenses, that's hell. It's going to be very difficult for you to change bad habits. Okay, so keep them separated. This is in the case of he, she, it, of course, because when we are using he, she, or it, we are going to need doesn't or does for the questions. But it's not always like that. We also use do for the rest of the pronouns. Okay, so he, she, and it use doesn't or does. Whereas, let me share it like this. Okay, this is not working. Now it's working. Let me share it like this so I can edit. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the different rules that we have for both of these. So if I want to talk about you, for example, I'm not going to use doesn't, I'm going to use don't. This is also something that is very important for you to remember. Okay, so she, he, or it doesn't smile every day. You, we, I, and they don't smile every day. That's also something important that you need to remember about the present simple. Okay, so keep it in mind. And the same is going to happen if I want to ask you a question. If I want to talk to you, I'm going to say, do you smile every day? Do you smile every day? That's also mandatory to keep the difference with. And the S at the end of the verb in affirmative sentences is mandatory, but only for he, she, and it. If I want to talk about you again, I'm not going to add an S at the end of the verb because it's not necessary. You don't need it. So you smile every day. Whereas with he, she, and it, I'm going to say she smiles every day. Okay, so the S at the end of the verb is very important. This is something that I'm going to be checking on you in the next few days because this is important. I need to find out if you are able to use the S at the end of the verb. Most of my students don't use the S at the end of the verb, and yeah, that's a big mistake. It's like when you hear people who are learning Spanish as a second language, and they do not conjugate the verbs correctly. For example, they would say, tu juego, it doesn't make sense. Tu juego, tu voy. I can hear my Spanish students speaking like that because they don't know how to conjugate verbs. Thankfully, in English, it's not so difficult. The only thing that you need to do is to add an S. And even so, we make mistakes. So that's why I'm repeating this a lot. You have to add an S at the end of the verb because that's the way you conjugate the verb. Otherwise, it sounds really weird when you're talking about another person. So yeah,
I
that
have a
would be.
question.
Oh yeah, tell me.
I don't know if are there some extra rules for the third person? For example, if I don't know if exists a verb who doesn't use the S or use another word like exception, because
Yes, we have.
the gringos use all the time the exceptions.
Yes, they love exceptions. Yeah, I
Uh,
got it. Yeah, and there are exceptions, of course, Rodri. We always have exceptions. So let me welcome my exceptions section. So what are the exceptions? Modal verbs. Modals, yeah. What are modal verbs? Don't worry, I'm gonna tell you. Verbs like can, may, might, should, could, would, etc. All of these verbs are the exception to the rule of the present simple. So you can never add an S at the end of can, for example. So I can say, I can walk, and I have to say, she can walk. Okay, so no changes, no S at the end of the verb, no do or does. That's not necessary. These are the only exceptions, though. We don't have more exceptions than these ones.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Okay, so yeah, keep that in mind because that's also very useful. Okay, so don't mix the rules. There was something else that I wanted to mention. Yes, when you have a verb ending in Y, in S, in X, in O, let me see if I have them all. I think I've got them all. You have to still follow the rule of the S at the end of the verb, but in the case of verbs ending in Y, you have to change the Y, drop the Y, and change it for a IES. The same will happen if you have a verb ending in S, like pass. If you're talking about she, for example, she passes. I pass, she passes. X, for example, mix. So I mix, she mixes. So you need an ES instead of just an S. The same happens with verbs ending in O. For example, go, you have to add an ES, goes. Goes. Oh yeah, this is the one that I'm letting out. CH. So for example, watch, I watch TV, but she watches. Watches. And finally, the ones ending in SH. So I wash my clothes, but she washes. Okay. Whenever you add an ES, you have to pronounce it. Okay. So cries, passes, mixes, goes, watches, washes. Okay, so it's necessary to pronounce it. Otherwise, it would be impossible to pronounce the S. Yeah, so that would be the rule for adding an S at the end of the verb. This is also very crucial for us. And yeah, there is an exception to this rule. I'm sorry. That's how this language works. What is the exception? The verbs like play. I just told you that you have to drop the Y. Oops, let me move it. Drop the Y when you are talking about verbs that end in Y. Nonetheless, there is an exception. When I have verbs like play, I'm not going to drop the Y, and I'm just going to add an S at the end of the verb. So I play, she plays. That's an exception. What is the exception about? And this is a little tricky, so pay attention. When I have...
Maybe because there is a vowel?
There you go. Yes, that's the reason why.
Okay.
Definitely. So if I have a vowel like A, E, I, O, U, I am going to add an S directly. But when I have a consonant before the Y, I have to drop the Y. It's kind of a tricky rule. Usually my students don't get it when I say it, but yeah, that's the rule. If you have a consonant before the Y, then you drop the Y and you have to change it for an I. If you have a vowel, then you don't need to drop anything. That's kind of the rule. Okay, so yeah, that would be the exception. Sorry guys, but there are always exceptions in English. Yeah, so that's the rule for this present simple. I usually think that the present simple is more complicated than the present continuous, because the present continuous is just one verb plus an ing form. So it's not more complicated than that. Whatever verb, whatever person, he, she, and it, I, we, you, and they, never mind. Everybody gets a verb plus ing. That's it. And what verb do I mean? What do I mean by verb? It's, of course, to be. So I am watching, she is speaking, etc. Whereas in the present simple, we have quite a few rules. Dies at the end of the verb when it's affirmative. We also get the do or does, don't or doesn't rules. Yeah, there are more things to keep an eye on when you are using the present simple. But again, this is something that we are going to keep practicing. Next class, I'm hoping that that we can get some time to make a conversation, but using 3 verb tenses this time: present simple, present continuous, and past simple, which is the next thing that we are going to study next class. So the first unit here, the first lesson, sorry, is quite easy. We only have some vocabulary, things that you need to keep in mind, and then we have the present continuous. But on the next one, we have the past simple. And this is something that we are going to spend a little longer talking about the regular verbs, irregular verbs, the pronunciation, which is something that people get mistaken all the time. So we are going to practice that also quite a few minutes, just paying attention to pronunciation. And then by the end of the class, I'm going to have you work on the uses of these verb tenses, okay? We only can benefit from the verb tenses when we use them, okay? It's not important to fill in exercises at the back of the book or anywhere else. Of course, it's filling exercises helps us remembering the rules. So if you are not familiar with the rule, I recommend going to the back of the book or to a good website and finding exercises where you can do a mechanic exercising, just writing things, writing the answer. But if you are already familiar with the rules, I think that what you need right now is to use those verb tenses a lot and make sure that you are using them correctly, right? So next class, we are going to pay attention to that, using the verb tenses. So I'm going to give you a few cards. I think next class, we are going to work on genially. So I can give you cards, speaking cards, and you can ask each other questions using all the verb tenses and the time markers that are necessary to differentiate them, right? So be ready to have a class where you are going to be using your own ideas according to the rules that we have reviewed in the past few days. I'm going to give you homework though, okay? So before you leave tonight, I want to tell you that I need you to do something for me. This homework is really for me. That's why I'm saying that you need to do it for me. It is a little difficult for me to get your speaking level, because now I have your writing level and your grammar level from the diagnostic exam, but I still don't have your speaking level. I have heard a few people speaking. Some people have written to me on WhatsApp, so I kind of know a few people, and I can tell their levels, but I need to be sure about all of you, and I haven't got the chance to see all of you. So what I'm going to ask you is to record, especially a video. Please give me that chance to see you. I want to see all of you, because I don't get that chance that much in class. So give that chance to me on a video. And on that video, I want you to introduce yourself, like talk about general things about your own personal information. Tell me about your career, your academic life, your personal life, whatever you want to share with me. But I want you to do like kind of a history of my life, like using the verb tense, because I also want to see if you can use the past tense, okay? And finally, and this is important, don't think that I'm just creating things, ways for you to feel that video. This is important. Also, talk to me about your favorite person. Who that person is, I don't know. And that's not the important thing. The important thing is that you can talk about another person. That person could be a relative, someone you live with, your friend, someone that doesn't exist, but you saw it on a movie. I don't care. Whoever you want to talk about. It could be your favorite celebrity. It could be your pet. Okay, whoever you want to talk about. But I want to see if you can use the third person singular. Okay, that's it. Where are you going to share that video with me? Upload it. I love the video to Drive, please. I want you to upload it to your personal folder on Drive whenever it's ready. I know that recording a video takes a long time, so it's not for next class, but please do it until Friday, not Friday. It's not well spelled. Okay, do it until Sunday this week, please. All right, I know it's extra work, but I need it. I need to see all of you. I need to get acquainted, and I need to see your speaking level. Okay, so that's your homework for Sunday. Until Sunday, so Sunday night, I can watch all your videos, and we can start the week with me having a clearer picture of your levels. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I'm not going to keep you here anymore. I know we are out of time. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today, for your participation. I really appreciate it. And be ready for Friday's class. We're going to be talking about the past. I'm going to upload, and this is the last thing I say, I'm going to upload a list of verbs on your personal folders on Drive. So if you want to practice those verbs, that would be awesome. Okay, yeah, that's it. If you have extra questions, stay with me for a few more minutes. And if you don't have any extra questions, you may go. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye,
Thank
teacher.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.